In this video, I'm excited to share with you one of the most dangerous weapons in all of chess, one where you can have a completely winning position in 7 moves and checkmating within the first 10 to 12. I've split the video, as always, into multiple parts, and at the end I've included a bonus lesson to give you other options in case the position doesn't land on the board as you would like it. So, we are jumping into this with the black pieces. White has to play e4. We gotta go e5, very standard. Knight f3, knight c6, and the bishop comes out to c4. Everything else will be covered at the end. Knight f6, and now knight to g5. This is called the fried liver attack, and many people will think that they've already succeeded in getting a winning position. Because the knight is threatening to take on f7, we cannot take back, and then they are going to win material. But here you will uncork something so vicious. You're going to play the move bishop c5, making it seem like you've blundered material, you've got to move your queen and lose your rook. But after knight takes f7, you are going to throw a haymaker. Bishop takes f2 check. And now is where the fun begins. White can take back that bishop, and then afterward we will look at what happens if they play king to f1. There's a lot of branches here, and all the moves have been included in the description. King takes on f2, and now we delay again with knight takes central pawn check. White king can go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares here. 2 of them survive, 4 of them lose immediately. The 2 that survive are hiding on g1 and going diagonally to e3, although I can almost guarantee you'll win 90% of the time if it goes to e3. Another move, for example, if they go to f3, will result in an absolute demise with something like queen to f6 check, and the king will get hunted down in the center of the board. Oftentimes the move pawn to d5 will be very useful here, and it's already basically a checkmate. There is nothing here that can be done. If the king goes to f1, then the other queen move is not to f6. Before that was a direct check on the king on f3, but because the king has gone to f1 and the queen can get in the way, in these positions we have queen h4. Keep the move queen h4 in mind because it's going to happen in a lot of these positions. Now if something like queen to f3 attacking our knight, we have knight d4. And we see a serious issue here. The queen is hit. We are threatening a mate. It's almost impossible to stop. We're also threatening to take here and win the rook. We're also threatening to just bring our rook, ultimately. The move rook to f8 is going to happen at some point as well. The 2 best moves that our opponents can play are hiding the king. I'll start with this one. So we play queen to h4, and now the best move for the opponent is to play the move g3. This is the only move. After knight takes g3, if something like h takes g3, we take with check, king moves to f1, and now we have to get our rook out of danger with something like rook to f8. The current count of material here is that we are down 3 points, but in a moment we are going to play d5, sacrificing our central pawn, bringing out this bishop to attack the queen, and also this knight is in serious trouble as long as we can disconnect here. So d5, the bishop pops out, the knight jumps in, and we are hunting down this poor king with no cover. If king comes out to e3, which very well might happen, we do not have queen to g5 check because the knight takes, but again this move queen h4, and you'll oftentimes see the move g3 here. You have to take, and you have to give a check. And you have to give this check because the king doesn't have a very convenient square to go to. If it goes to e2, you take on c4, and it's a fork. You've officially won back both of the pieces that you've sacrificed, and this king is absolutely terrible. Obviously, there are other things. Like, for example, if pawn comes up, my favorite, and one that might happen to you, you have a mate in 2. Queen f4 check, king to e2, and queen f2 is mate. You've checkmated your opponent with the black pieces in 9 moves. I can't do much better with an openings video, okay? I'm doing the best I can. I have won games like this. It totally does happen, and it's actually not the rarest thing ever. Now I'm going to show you my most favorite line, one that is absolutely beautiful and hopefully convinces you to play the Traxler. So, queen h4, and what happens if they bring their queen out? I have seen this happen. They bring their queen out. We actually come back with the knight. What does that do? It prepares this move, and we have knight d4 and queen d4, and this bishop is under attack. And I've had games go like this. Knight takes rook. Now we jump in with the knight attacking the queen. The queen's got to be very careful. For example, if the queen goes to g3 offering a trade, we have knight to f5, which is just a fork, and we win the queen. So I've had people play queen back to f1, and now absolute beauty. So d5 attacking the bishop, and here watch this. Knight g4 check, king slides over, knight jumps into f2, king slides over, and the beautiful clearance sacrifice, knight to e2 check, queen has to take, and the queen slides over to the center, and it's queen d4 mate, beautifully done in the center of the board like this, and the king is blocked in by its own pieces. So there is so much poison in this, right? But white doesn't always have to fall for all of our traps. This all these problems begin right here. Okay, and then we will even back up and I will show you bishop takes f7 as well, so good thing you didn't click out of the video. King to f1 is considered the critical move. Because our queen remains under attack, we cannot check the king. So the best move has to be to get the queen out of danger. Now, white should of course continue to go and take our rook. And now we do not slow down. Pawn to d5. Why? Because if bishop takes, the bishop goes to g4 and the queen is literally trapped. The queen is completely boxed in, the bishop is protected by the knight, and congratulations, you win on move 8. So the best move is to go pawn takes d5. And then here we jump in with the knight. So we are now down 6 points of material. This bishop can still not be captured. And here I've won a handful of games with the move c3, trying to get this knight out. You go bishop g4 attacking the queen. The queen's only way of escaping is to give you this check. And you play the silent killer backward knight slide to d7. And here the game is lost. Why? Because, for example, if they take on f2, you bring in the queen. You hunt the king down. If they take your knight, queen to f6. Who is saving this king? I'll tell you who. Nobody. Nobody can stop this angry queen coming in. If d takes e5 hitting the queen, slide it on forward. If the pawn comes up, you snap it right off the board and deliver a checkmate on f2. So much power here. But, of course, I have to tell you what is the best thing to do here. And the best move in this position, the most critical testing line of the Traxler, is to sacrifice the pawn and attack our queen. That throws us for a little bit of a spin, and here I'm going to show you 26 moves of engine theory where white emerges this much better. If your opponent knows this, they've either watched this video and they have the notes next to them, or they're using a computer. So here we go. We take with the queen. The best move for white is to play knight f7. We bring the queen to c5, attacking the bishop on c4. Pawn to d3. We go bishop g4, attacking the queen. Queen to d2, and the bishop slides out of danger. Now knight c3, we go b5, and white has to know the only move here to give any sort of advantage, b4. Sacrificing the pawn to make the queen a target. We don't take the pawn, we go back. Bishop b3. We have to play knight d5, sacrificing the knight. Two different ways, so we can go queen f6 and queen attacking the king. Bishop d5, queen f6, king g1, bishop e2, takes. Sorry, bishop f3 first, takes. They don't take back, because after pawn takes, there is knight takes, and we hit the queen. Then queen e3, we take the knight, they take back. Check here, here. Sacrificing the knight on f3. Queen h5 check, king g2, queen g4, and now white has to sacrifice the queen with queen to g3. Take, take, take. Bishop d2. And we take a breath. This is what computers want to happen here. They want white to sacrifice the queen and emerge in a position where black has a queen and 6 pawns versus a rook, knight, and bishop. And 4 pawns. Look, I had to include this, otherwise someone in the comments would have been like, you never showed this line. Do you think anybody's gonna ever play this against you? No. Have I wasted like 2 minutes of your time showing this to you? Potentially, but I wanted to show you that this opening doesn't win automatically. Now, one other thing that we have not looked at yet, and we have to look at it. What happens if they don't take on f7 with the knight? The most critical move, the one that I recommended in my fried liver video. What if they play bishop takes f7 check? This is considered actually to be the best move against the Traxler, but I'm going to show you that it's not so simple. Just because you read some computer line before the game, or you watched one of my videos, doesn't mean that it's practically easy to play. It's very different to watch a video, right? I'm sure we all know this. It's difficult to watch a video. I mean, it's easy to watch a video, but it's much harder to go play all the moves right. So, in this position, we play king to e7. So the bonus is we get to play a mini bomb cloud, right? To king e7. White has to get out of here with the bishop now to one of these 3 squares. If white doesn't, if white just castles, then just h6 and we win. The knight cannot guard the bishop anymore. So congrats, you're going to win a piece. So the bishop has to get out. What's considered main line here is bishop d5, which I never understood. But let's just say the bishop goes back to c4, just where it was, or b3, which is what I recommend in my video on the fried liver, because I don't like that d5 can attack our bishop. Sorry, wrong bishop. This bishop. I don't like that. I prefer the bishop on b3. Even if the bishop goes to b3, the next, like, 5 moves for black, you can pre-move, basically. First, you play rook f8, because you don't want knight f7 to be a problem anymore. Now the best move for white is to castle. Because here, if white plays something like knight to c3, which is also kind of possible, you come up with the following plan. I mean, knight c3, castling. Bishop takes f2 looks good, but sadly, this just doesn't quite do it with the double check. Actually, white is okay here. So, however white decides to set up, like let's say knight c3, you will play d6, h6, bishop g4, and bring this queen around like this. So white taking our pawn opens this diagonal, and the queen slides over. In a perfect world, this looks something like this. Let's say castle, d6, d3, and now we can go queen g6. If the knight drops back, it's actually us who is attacking the opponent. We have knight to d4, putting pressure. And because the f7 pawn is gone, in the long run, what happens is the f-file is also open for the rook. And the king, in many cases, can just slide back to d8 and be completely safe. So this critical line, even though it's good for white, objectively speaking, is a nightmare to play. The best thing to do for white is to bring the bishop out of danger, and in many cases, to play c3, d4. That is what you should do if you want to play against the Traxler. Bishop f7, go back, and pop these pawns out to d4, even at the cost of losing a pawn, because the king is in the middle. So it doesn't matter if you lose a pawn in the center of the board if the king is wide open on the other side, right? But this is what you would do in these systems. You would play rook f8, bring the queen around like this, d6, bring the bishop, and attack on this side of the board. Bring all of these pieces like that. It's the best thing that I can do. I love how in these positions we're so active, right? Every piece is getting involved. For what? The cost of 1 pawn? It's amazing. Positions like absolutely dynamite here. But that is what is considered the best way to play against the Traxler. There is knight f7, and there's bishop f7. There's one other line that I wanted to show you, and it's actually the move d4. So it's knight g5, bishop c5, and here there's a kind of a funny move, d4. And the point is that now you've cleared out space for your pieces, and this is a new threat. So the best thing to do on d4, if for some reason you face it, is to just play d5. If white takes, then you take with the knight, and you're doing very well, because the knight is now not attacking since the bishop is blocked. If white were to play here something like, let's say, d6, the point of which is trying to take like this, you just castle, you laugh in their face. This is not something that concerns us. 2 pieces like this are definitely going to be better than the sacrifice material of the rook, I should say. It's not even quite sacrifice material, but you get what I'm saying. So d4, d5, you might face d4, but it's so rare. But I figured that I would include it because why not? Again, I'm always shocked at how long some of you watch these videos. Like, they're kind of long. I try to keep them short, but I guess the content is engaging. So I figured I would just include that. And if you made it to the 14th minute of this video, now you know about d4, d5. And that's basically it. In the last part of this video, I want to show you just a few ideas and things to think about if after e4, e5, this doesn't happen. I just figured like I would include this just because you guys are amazing. Those of you that make it this far, now you're going to get more information. So, knight f3, knight c6, they can play the Scotch. Against the Scotch, I would, of course, recommend to take. And if they play pawn take, knight takes, There's one really fun line in the Scotch, queen to h4. I showed this in my How to Study Chess Openings video. It's a very tricky line. The point is, of course, if g3, there is this. And if knight to c3, first of all, if knight c6, the same thing. And if knight c3, there is bishop b4. Now, this line, if the opponent is extremely well prepared, they will know that the best move here is to sacrifice this pawn completely and to launch an attack on you with knight to b5. But again, I'm just giving you ideas, okay? That's the point of this. Some aggressive ideas if you want to really just attack from the get-go. If bishop to b5, of course, we cannot play any sort of fried liver, but against, like, the Spanish, for example, knight to f6 followed by bishop c5 and d6 is completely good. As well as, for example, there's other stuff like the bird variation. The bird variation of the Ruy Lopez. And other things. I mean, in general, you can always play these positions also with g6 and bishop g7. And if the opponent just plays like, for example, doesn't go for the fried liver and instead plays like this, I would recommend setting up with d6 and h6. Now, you gotta be a little careful. You can't just play d6 because now it's a fried liver and your bishop doesn't get out. Okay, so it depends how you do it. I would recommend, if you'd like, just develop the bishop to c5 first and then play d6 and h6. And what's the point? You're waiting for your opponent to castle. And you are delaying it. Why? So you can castle the other way. The Traxler is great and you can beat somebody in 7 moves, but in these e4, e5 positions, if things get boring, I want you to have a backup plan, and the backup plan will be h6, g5 to start some sort of big kingside attack, bring out the bishop, queen, and let's just do a few moves here, just so you see what it looks like. And in a perfect world, you get something like this. You go knight d4, rooks come over, and you launch an attack. Just to make it aggressive, exciting, to give you a few more things to think about here as a bonus for watching this long. But the Traxler is so vicious. I mean, did you see some of those mates? The best way to study all of this will be, as usual, to take the moves that I've put in the description and practice them out. Make sure you're playing the queen to the right square in the right variations. Otherwise, you're not going to be playing perfect games. You might be checkmating, but that's because your opponents are blundering rather than you playing all the correct moves. There's a lot of PGN readers out there which can read the chess moves that I've put into the description. Feel free to share some in the comments with each other. Any analysis board on any website will allow you to import those moves and play through them. Happy hunting. Feel free to share a link. I love seeing links to games that y'all play. People tag me on Twitter in games that they've played. It's so much fun. I retweet, fun games. And yeah, I really had a lot of fun making this video and the video yesterday on the fried liver. If you haven't watched the How to Study Chess Openings video, I highly recommend it. A lot of people gave me very, very positive feedback on that video. All these 3 together, and you'll be ready to go. Any suggestions are welcome in the comments for future openings you want to see. Take care.